What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the Off the Bench Podcast Network. It is time for episode number 11 here of the Changeup with my co-host Bryanna Winner. You can find her on Twitter at bwinner12. Miss Winner, how are you doing today?
I mean, things could be better, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of it's a great time in the winter. Family, at least, birthday's coming up, as you were telling me, but unfortunately a little distant because of the situation. But here we are. We're hopefully, fighting through to better times, like most of all of you out there, I'm sure, here in 2020. And as they say, there's only 16 days to go. That's under the assumption 2020 is going to be all rainbows. I hope that's the case, but we shall see here soon enough. But definitely passing my best along to you and your family, Bryanna. And as we get into this week's episode, definitely more news coming down. It was free agency, trade talk, and then even some front office moves. We will get to that in a moment. But really the big news of the week is the Cleveland Indians announcing that they're going to change their name. They will still be the Cleveland Indians through the 2021 season. And now after that, they will find a new team name. This comes after, years ago when they got rid of Chief Wahoo as their main logo. Now it isn't on the uniform at all. It's just the C. They will obviously be moving on to a new name. A ton of names have been kind of thrown out there. For me, I think there's only one name that really can be, and it's got to be the Cleveland Spiders. And let me tell you why. It's not because Cleveland's, the spider factory of the United States or anything like that. It's because, let me take you back to the wonderful time of 1899. Right before, the turn of the century, the Cleveland Spiders put up the worst record in Major League Baseball history with a gaudy 20-134 record. Just the worst of the worst. No one will touch that record, at least here in modern times. The aces of the staff for the Cleveland Spiders in 1899, we got Jim Hughley, who was 4-30 with a 5.41 ERA, which is the best on the team. And then his co-partner, his co-ace, was Charlie Kepper, who went 4-22. 4 wins were the most on the team, obviously nearly half of their wins. This is a chance to kind of take a nod to maybe not the greatest time in Cleveland sports, but I think it would be a great opportunity to. Obviously, they're changing the name for the reasons that I'm not going to get into. You can go find that debate on other podcasts. I'm not going to get into it.
You can find that debate just with football.
Yeah, exactly. Really, in most situations. But once again, in terms of it's happening. So what is next? I think for Cleveland, it would be a nice little nod to them, to their history. I mean, it's not a history anybody wants, but it's been 120, 25 years. Let's have some fun with it. That would be kind of cool. Obviously, the Indians aren't changing their name until after the 2021 season. They don't want to get kind of pigeonholed like the Washington football team. I almost did it there. They got to get a new logo.
They almost had to put money in the jar.
Yeah, almost. It's actually, we got through the last 2 pods. No one said the R word, but it's a lot of marketing in this situation. It's want to make sure that they have logos and jerseys to sell in the off season and turn that into money. But yeah, Cleveland Spiders would be my vote. But it is happening after the 2021 season. There will be a new team name, or who knows, maybe they just take inspiration from Washington and call themselves the Cleveland baseball team.
No.
Bryanna shoots that down immediately. Moving on to some of the news and notes of the week. For me, that hits a little home is one of my favorite former Padres, still a favorite of mine, Hunter Renfrey, heading to Boston. Bryanna, a big power hitter, going to a place that's about 320 down the left field line. What are your thoughts about Hunter Renfrey to Boston? Not really something that I felt Boston needed, but just another bat.
Well, I mean, it's a good pickup for them. I think they're just in rebuild mode at this point, like other teams in the league. Like, hell, I'm pretty sure the Royals are in build mode. Based on their record this last year. So I mean, it's a good pickup to start, but they really do need a bullpen.
Yeah.
Like that's first and foremost, just like the Angels and the Red Sox need a bullpen.
Yeah, it was interesting to me. I mean, it makes sense as one of only two players in Padres history to hit home runs on the top of the Western Metal Supply Building. That bodes pretty well when you talk about a green monster that's about 20 feet closer to home plate, as long as you get enough loft on that. Another thing about Hunter Renfrey, I remember watching him at Mississippi State. Very, very thrilled. I was thrilled when the Padres drafted him in the first round and, followed his progression up. He looked like he was going to end up being a DH. Obviously, back in 2015, that didn't work for the Padres. They obviously continued to look for ways to trade him. Heading into the 2019 season, he ended up being one of the during the 2019 season, ended up being one of the best defensive right fielders. I don't know if he was a finalist, but he should have been. Didn't win it, but he was a fantastic outfielder. He'll have to go to Boston. I don't know if there's maybe San Francisco would be tougher outfield because all those nooks and crannies, but Boston is a terribly tough right field to play, whether it's pesky pole or a wall that goes up to your hip, and you got to be wary of that. You can't feel for the wall with your hands. So we'll see how Renfro does there. Personally, for me, I'm rooting for him. It's an opportunity to hopefully stay with a team. He's kind of bounced around lately. I'd like to see him stick around. Moving on to the Mets. Oh, go for it.
Well, I was gonna go with the rest of the free agency talks.
Go for it. Yes, please do.
So James McCann is now with the Mets. He signed a 4-year, $40 million deal. Adam Eaton signed 1 year, $7 million with the White Sox. Greg Holland signed 1 year, $2.75 million, and he's remaining with the Royals. And then David Dahl, who signed a 1 year, $3 million deal with the Rangers. I mean, look, the Rangers, I think, are also in rebuild after getting rid of Lynn.
Yeah. And David Dahl was one of the more, him and Schwarber, I guess, maybe the non-tender blew me away, but the Cubs have been trying to get rid of him or find somewhere for him to play or go for a little while. But David Dahl leaving Colorado after a really bad 2020 season, but I mean, it's 60 games. I think we can be a little more forgiving, but he was non-tendered. He'll go to Texas. Not the old ballpark in Arlington where it's such a hitter's haven. We'll see if that power and that 2019 form at least can travel away from Coors Field. Big money from the Mets. Dropping on, James McCann, a guy who is one of the top catchers, definitely one of the top two catchers available. Real Muto will sign for a lot of money, a lot more than McCann did. I was surprised a bit to see McCann sign this early, but I think the Mets wanted to get out in front of this, get it done now without having to deal with all the Real Muto, whoever loses out on Real Muto, immediately turning their attention to James McCann and maybe bidding them out of that situation. Do you have the name of, we don't have a whole lot on the guy, but the name of the player to be named later that finished up the Angels deal a couple weeks ago?
I do. So the Raisel Iglesias deal now has the player to be named later announced, and it's going to be infielder Leonardo Rivas.
There you go. Another player sent out, but once again, I think that Iglesias deal is, I think maybe in terms of the bullpen wise, free agent or trade wise, I think that's definitely one of the best pickups you can have, and it fits the need for the Angels, and it's perfect because it doesn't cost a ton of money. They're still able to go out and get Bryanna's hopefully new favorite Angel, Trevor Bauer, who,
don't forget I sent you that video.
Yes, and the Angels are number one. You talk to a lot of the experts, and I would say 60 to 70% of them expect him to go to the Angels. I would love that. Obviously there are a lot of Padre fans who want him to come here. I've gone on the record as saying, let's get Fernando Tatis signed to an extension, and then we can worry about other things. Trevor Bauer isn't exactly the leader I want for those young pitchers, just myself.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, to be fair, the video that he put out on his YouTube channel was based on the fan bases.
Yeah.
So like he was looking at consistency, creativity, and I can't remember what the last one was, but of the top 5 on this video, it was the Yankees at 5, Giants at 4, Padres at 3, Mets at 2, and then obviously the Angels at 1. But he's going based off like all the memes and all everything. Like he was like, I can't believe you guys actually did this with the Angels, because they actually got a hashtag trending saying Bauer to Anaheim.
Yeah.
And I looked through some of that and that was great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And he is the master marketer, master, I don't want to say agitator, but he gets people talking. He gets, and then that momentum channel on YouTube is not only kind of quirky, but there's a lot of really good stuff. And I firmly believe the fact that during the pandemic, he was essentially in that momentum house with 4 or 5 other major leaguers that he could work out with daily. I believe that went very far in his resurgence this year, or at least, I mean, maybe not resurgence, but his career here, I should say. Now, the Padres, of course, a lot of, conspiracy theorists or whatever. Oh, Mike Clevenger and Trevor Bauer, big friends and stuff like that. And I love Trevor Bauer going out and the creativity and, ranking the teams like that. But I really don't think that's going to matter. I think the number one A, B, C, and D factor is going to be the money.
But Bauer is also a Southern California boy.
Definitely, so. But I think if it's a difference of $5 million, then yeah, okay. But if the Red Sox come in, and I know they're not really a team that's been named, but just a big market team, or even the Yankees come in and throw an extra $15 million at Trevor Bauer, I think Trevor can go, I'll spend my winters in my beach house in Malibu, but I'll go play for them Yankees. He doesn't have facial hair, so he doesn't have to get rid of that. It would be awesome to see Trevor Bauer go to Anaheim, not only for my co-host's sake, but also for Astros. The drama. Yeah. I mean, Astros Angels would be Sunday Night Baseball 9 times out of the year. And I will throw it out there, with the universal DH being gone from the National League. If it won't be the Angels, I hope it's somebody that at least Trevor Bauer will face in the National League at bat, because that would be an interesting subplot. Do they hit Trevor Bauer, or does the coach even let him, or does the manager even let him take that bat?
Probably not.
Yeah.
If it's Madden, hell no.
No way. And moving on to some of the kind of off the field stuff, Dave Dombrowski, really one of the more upper echelon front office personnel, incredibly successful over his career. He was ousted in Boston in the middle of the season last year. He links up with the Philadelphia Phillies, and he will be in their front office, the new general manager. We'll see what they do there. Obviously, a lot of money tied up in Bryce Harper. We, of course, had the Rule 5 draft in baseball. We had 18 players drafted. Just a little quick synopsis of what the Rule 5 draft is. Not every single player is eligible for the Rule 5 draft. If you are in a system for 3 or 4 years, I'm not quite sure the right number, the minor league system of a team, and you never make it onto the 40-man roster. The 40-man is kind of like that reserve roster, if you will. If you are in that system, don't make it on the 40-man roster. Every December, there's this thing called the Rule 5 draft, and every team gets a chance to pick those players who are eligible for the Rule 5 draft via not being on their team's 40-man roster at the time of the draft. If a team drafts a player, let's just say a Jordan Sheffield, as that happened, Colorado picks up Jordan Sheffield. So now Jordan Sheffield, who has not pitched above AA in his career, will have to stay on the Rockies major league roster, 25-man roster I'm talking here, not 40-man to where 15 players of yours are down in the minor leagues. No, this Sheffield and the 17 other draftees of the Rule 5 will have to stay on that 25-man roster for the entirety of the season. If that doesn't happen, if at one point they go, you know what, we need this roster spot, they don't send him down. They end up sending him back to the team in question. In this case, it was the Dodgers.
Dodgers.
So yeah, it's the Rule 5 draft. I go back to Shane Victorino, back of Philly's success, and he even was at the Padres. He was a 3 or 4 time Rule 5 draft veteran. Not a ton of talent. I don't want to knock anybody. There could be, but about once every 5 years, there's an all-star that came out of the Rule 5. But a lot of teams draft 18, 19-year-old kids, hide them on their major league roster, maybe tell them they've got Tommy John or something like that. And then they can stick around next year. And then after the first year that player is on their new team, then they're eligible to be anywhere in the roster. But once again, their clock starts. If they're not on the 40-man roster in that time, they'll be back in the Rule 5 draft. So,
and if you're thinking the name Sheffield sounds familiar, you're thinking of his brother Justice, who is currently with the Mariners.
Yes, and that was a bit of a, Bryanna was going through the names, and I went, whoa, Jordan Sheffield, he was a top prospect. I was thinking of his brother, but Jordan Sheffield was at one point a top prospect. But to be fair, if you're in the Rule 5 draft, your star has faded. But all these players get a new chance. They now have, 16 new teams that believe in these 18 players, because I believe 2 teams drafted twice. So
yeah, but also with Sheffield, yeah, he didn't do well as a starter, but I mean, between 2 different levels, the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes and the Tulsa Drillers, he was in 2 different, between the 2 leagues, he was in 49 games and had 13 saves. So maybe they just use him as a reliever.
Definitely. And that's what they're going to have to, they don't have a choice unless they want to send him back to the Dodgers. And Colorado needs pitching help. Colorado needs a lot of help. I think their biggest thing that they need to do is bring in some guys that make Nolan Arenado feel comfortable, because if they have any chance of succeeding, I'm sorry, they have to keep Nolan Arenado in that uniform. But yeah, the Rule 5 draft, Sheffield heads throughout the NL West. And then the last bit of news, rather unfortunate, and not the first, and unfortunately won't be the last minor league baseball team, the Vermont Lake Monsters. They lose their affiliation with the Oakland A's. Is even before the 2020 pandemic, minor league baseball, especially lower division, A ball, high A ball, and lower, they were in a lot of trouble. Obviously, 2020 magnified that. So we see the Vermont Lake Monsters move away from the A's, and now this opens up the question of what's next for these major league teams. A lot of these major league teams have multiple levels in the A program. Most teams only have 1 AAA and 1 AA team, but there are other teams that have a high A team, a regular A team, and maybe 2 or 3 short season A teams. So what happens now for those 60 players that now might not have a home? There's plenty has been written and talked about the, unfortunately, what's going on in minor league baseball. You can feel free. Baseball America has done a fantastic job covering it. If you're able to pick up that publication, it's really sad, because minor league baseball, it's a lot of fun to go to minor league baseball games. It's not, you're not seeing Barry Bonds or Mike Trout run around out there, but there's some players that you might see and 5 years down the road say, hey, you know what? I saw that kid play, and it makes you feel kind of good. And there's a lot of, especially the Lake Elsinore Storm, always a lot of fun at the up in Elsinore. Moving on to really just kind of finish this up. Do you have anything else on that part?
Well, to be fair, minor league baseball is getting restructured in the next year anyway. And obviously the Vermont Lake Monsters were not among the 120 teams that the MLB even invited to join this restructure. So, I mean, it's just sad to see a lot of towns losing their baseball teams. Yeah. Like I know Colorado Springs, they had the Sky Sox, who were affiliated with the Rockies for a while. And then they became an affiliate of the Brewers, I think. And now I believe there's no team out there anymore. So, I mean, it's just one of many cities that are losing their teams. And then also the Angels picked up a pitcher in this Rule 5 draft. So hopefully that'll be somebody that can be put into their reliever rotation, which is somewhere they badly need help.
Definitely. And why not? I mean, take a chance. If it doesn't work out, you send him back to where he came from, or where he was drafted from, I should say. And, just going back to the MLB.
Astros.
Astros. Oh,
Astros.
perfect. So maybe he'll bring some of that. No, I'm just kidding. So just in terms of the minor league part, MLB definitely, yeah, a couple years back when they set this restructuring up, pretty much cut half of the teams out of it. But for Major League Baseball, they're a business. They're not a big fan of, kind of carrying things. So it's unfortunate, but it is the rule of law these days, or at least the way it is in the big business of baseball. But hopefully the teams that do survive that extra revenue, that vacuum, if you will hopefully be able to keep them afloat for a bit, because I think minor league baseball is going to take some hits as well, like everything after 2020 and unfortunately beyond. But another episode here of the Changeup as we get 1 week closer to baseball season beginning. There's been some muffled chatter about when the season will start. Still long ways away from even having any actual real data on that. So we'll leave that to the others. But 1 week closer, no matter what, to baseball season, hopefully a full 162 game season. Bryanna, final thoughts as we get ready for another week of baseball, at least baseball rumors.
I'm just excited to see more of the free agencies finally coming up. Yes, there's still a few months left, but spring training is supposed to start in a few months. So I'm pretty sure players want to be signed to a team before that even happens. So Bauer, please.
Yeah, I definitely think post-Christmas, maybe post-New Year, I think you're going to see a lot of teams or a lot of players, because a lot of players just look, they go take 2-month vacations, tell their agents, I'll talk to you in January. If you want to talk to teams, fantastic, but don't bother me. I'm going to go, especially this year, after how crazy it's been. I guess you can't really go too many vacations, but anyways, I digress. It will be a very interesting next month, whether it's on the field or whether it's players that are going to be on the field, or where does Theo Epstein go? How does the schedule shake out? What does 2021 baseball look like? Where does Bauer go? Where does JT Realmuto sign? Does Nolan Arenado stay in Colorado? So many storylines that are going to be popping up and hopefully figured out in the next couple months. So we will be here every single week breaking those stories down with, of course, my co-host Bryanna Winner. You can find her at bwinner12. My name is Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the Off the Bench Podcast Network. This has been another episode of the Changeup. Thank you all so much for listening. It's time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody.